Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
It is a beautiful night for baseball in downtown Cincinnati, and we welcome you as a crowd gathers inside Great American Ballpark. It's the opening game of a three-game series between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome to Reds Baseball. It was heartbreak central in Philadelphia for the Reds last week. Could have won all three, ended up winning just one time. In that game, the second game of the series, Mike Leake was simply spectacular. Unfortunately for him, it ended in a no decision.
Well, the game that he pitched last week, he had a no-hitter for most of the ball game. Just goes to show you why you should not judge a pitcher only on his win-loss record, because clearly Mike Leake could not pitch much better of a game than he did that day. Those two earned runs that he left on base that eventually were gassed around by the relief corps. 9 strikeouts for Leake, and he's a guy that is just, he came back from a series of 3 outings in a row where he couldn't get anybody out, it seemed like, and he bounced back and threw a game like that. He's got to be on the corners, and he's got to be on top of his game tonight, because he will be facing Cole Hamels against the Reds. 9-0 overall with a 145 earned run average. 14 starts for Cole Hamels. This guy seems to get better and better, despite the fact that there are trade rumors. Every time he takes them out, people are there to see him, and they're wondering if he and how long he will remain a Philadelphia Philly.
Yeah, he was the guy that locked up against Leake in that game, and he only gave up 2 runs in 7 innings, but left at the time down 2-0, and the Phillies rallied from 4-0 down to tie it in the ninth and to win it in extra innings. So it should be a dandy here tonight. When we come back, Jay Bruce on quite a run right now, and he has been a Philly buster. Jim Day has that story when we come back. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By Chevy. Check out our award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time.
Down at the ball yard tonight, could be a few thunder showers about the area early on, and then again around 11 o'clock. So at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game, there is that chance of rainfall. Temperature-wise, you're looking at 72 first pitch. By the time you're headed home, rounded third and headed for home, you're talking 68 degrees. Get them on, get them over, get them in. Woo! Enjoy the game, everyone, on Fox Sports Ohio.
Tim, thank you very much. I'm Jim Day on the field. Yesterday, it was Johnny Cueto, J.J. Hoover, and Aroldis Chapman. Shutout baseball for Cincinnati, and it was one guy providing all the offense, and that is right fielder Jay Bruce. Hit not one, but 2 home runs yesterday. A solo shot to get it started off. And then later on, a 3-run home run, leading the Reds to that 4-0 victory. And as we've said a million times, when Jay Bruce is heating up, that usually means the Reds heat up as a team. And if you look at his past history against the Philadelphia Phillies, we might expect it to continue tonight. He's our T-Mobile game changer. Jay Bruce has reached base safely in 17 straight games versus the Phillies. And look at his numbers over that span. .410 average, 3 doubles, 7 home runs, 17 runs driven in, and 8 walks. When Jay Bruce is walking, good things also happen. It's the first of 3, and indeed, Reds looking for a little bit of redemption against the Phillies. Lineups and first pitch are on deck. Tom Brenneman and Chris Welch with all the play-by-play action of Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
So a really nice crowd on hand tonight. And for the time being, we'll say our prayers and keep our fingers crossed. The weather looks mighty, mighty fine. 22 up and 36 down for Ryne Sandberg's Philadelphia Phillies. Hall of Fame second baseman of the Chicago Cubs in his second full year as manager. And their lineup has Rivera in right, Herrera in center, Utley is at second, Ryan Howard at first, Franco down at third, Ashe in left. Galvis is shortstop, Ruiz behind the plate. For 5 and 4 left-hander Cole Hamels. 2 and 4 is a record for right-hander Mike Leake.
Yeah, Mike Leake was looking for something to build on. He certainly started that last week when he started against the Phillies, threw an excellent ball game in that endeavor. And he opens to put a win on the board here with another one tonight.
Well, the pride of Lexington, Kentucky is Ben Revere. He looks at a strike. Revere's having a nice year. 266 hitter, 8 doubles, 5 triples, 16 runs batted in, 12 stolen bases. He's quickly behind Lake at 0-2. Breaking ball misses outside. Revere played a full season for the first time as a Philadelphia Philly in 2014. Originally a first-round draft pick for Minnesota. And that one is shot down the right field line on a 2-strike pitch, and this guy can run. I mean, really run. Although he'll pull the chute as Bruce fires it back into Brandon Phillips, and this one starts with a Ben Revere double.
Looked like a little mistake pitch right there. I want to say it was a changeup, and you see where the catcher Barnhart is looking for it down and away, and you hang a changeup waist high on the inner part of the plate, and normally that's going to be hit hard, sometimes foul, but that one stays fair down the line. It's the one thing that Mike Leake is still working at and trying to do is take a little bit more off his changeup as far as velocity. Right now, the difference between changeup and fastball is less than 10 miles an hour. It's about 6 or 7 miles an hour. Sometimes that's not enough to get the hitter off stride.
Rookie center fielder Herrera bunts it, caught by Frazier. Boy, that helps. Herrera unable to get it on the ground, and he's a 1-pitch out. Take a look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford. The usual cast of characters along the infield. Hamilton in center, Bruce in right. It's a first start as a Cincinnati Red for Ivan De Jesus Jr.
And it's a tough day out there. The sun shining bright right in his eyes. That is one of the toughest outfields in all of baseball. Billy Hamilton in center field shading his eyes really as the pitch comes underway, but you can see the shadow and the glare.
Here's a veteran, Chase Utley. Of course, this entire Philadelphia Phillies foundation built on the shoulders of both Utley and the man who waits in the on-deck circle, Ryan Howard. They had so many great teams and great seasons, but now a lot of dark days and long years, as both have gotten long in the tooth. But as we found out last week, both still capable of hurting you if you make a mistake. Utley comes in batting just 198. 4 home runs and 24 batted in.
And really the way he hit the ball in that series, you're stunned when you look at that batting average. I mean, every time he came up, it seems like when the Reds pitchers made a mistake, he was laying out a rope.
And in that series, they made those mistakes on pitches on the inside part of the plate, which is where Utley still kill you. And they're coming in again, and this time they get him swinging. So after a leadoff double, a pop-up on a failed sacrifice attempt, and a 3-pitch strikeout to take away Utley's at bat.
Great spot when you bury that slider down on the back leg of a left-handed hitter. And that's exactly what happens.
So one more out to go from Mike Leake, and here is Ryan Howard. 11 home runs, 27 runs batted in. What an unbelievable career this guy has had in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform. Only Michael Jack Schmidt has hit more home runs. Only Schmidt and Del Ennis with more runs batted in as a Philadelphia Philly. The 7th most extra base hits, 8th most total bases for Ryan Howard. He's played over 1,300 games in a Philadelphia uniform. He needs 5 home runs to reach 350 in his career. A laser into right center field, and this will roll all the way to the wall. And the Philadelphia Phillies have done here in the first inning what they could not do through 8 full innings against Mike Leake last Wednesday night, and that's get on the scoreboard.
Well, Howard gets a fastball, and you see where Barnhart is. I mean, this is what the problem is when you miss by about 2 feet your target. I mean, I always say that there's a place to throw the ball, which is where the ideal spot is, and then there's a place to miss. And if you miss to Ryan Howard, you better miss off the plate somewhere, because he's not the hitter that he once was, but he can still hurt you, as shown right there by leaving it way out over the dish.
There's a base hit hooked into left field by Franco. They will hold Ryan Howard at third base. Third hit in the inning for the Phillies, and they're on the corners with 2 away, and Ashe coming up. Ashe began the year with a major league club. He is a third baseman by trade. They sent him out on the 12th of May to work on playing left field, which is where he's playing now regularly. Comes in at 237. Has 2 home runs and 6 runs batted in. It's low and away for ball 1.
Yeah, it's a situation, Tom, where they like his swing. They like his approach. They don't have room in the infield for him because they like Franco over there at third base. So they got to find a spot for him. And of course, the Reds are doing the same thing right now with Devin Mesoraco, who tonight will start in left field down in the minor leagues on a rehab. I mean, Ashe wasn't down there very long working on left field. As soon as you go down there and play a few games, get the hang of it, they're going to get you up here.
Line drive center field. Billy leaps into the air to get it. 3 hits, 1 run. Reds coming to bat, trailing 1-0. Brian Price's starting lineup presented by Meyer. It'll be Brandon Phillips, Joey Votto, and Todd Frazier to start it. Jay Bruce in right, Zach Cozart at short. Dave Jesus, as we mentioned, his first start as a Red. Only has 1 at bat since being brought up from Louisville. He'll be in left. And a ladder third of Barnhart, again, the pitcher, league batting 8th. And Billy Hamilton bats 9th. Cole Hamels among the very best in baseball for the better part of the last 8-9 years.
You're right. A left-hander with an outstanding fastball and a plus-plus changeup. That's the 1-2 punch you get with Hamels. And he's a competitor, too. Now 31 years old, 6'3", 200 pounds, from Rancho Bernardo, San Diego, California. Not a bad neighborhood.
That is right up there with the high cotton neighborhoods of California, the entire state.
Now, he was a kid when he was in high school, drafted #1 by the Phillies, 17th pick overall, 2002. But he was an excellent student. I mean, he had all sorts of offers to go to college. He scored 1,500 on the SAT.
That's doing it.
Out of a possible 1,600. So when the Phillies made him an offer as a first-round pick, he jumped at that.
He's smart enough to figure that out.
You and I could have figured that out, and together we may not have scored 1,500.
I didn't know it went that high. He has 3 years left on his contract, and seemingly for 2 years now. I mean, there's talk about really ever since he signed the deal, and then the trouble started for the Phillies franchise. They're paying a number of players a lot of money, especially the trio of Hamels, Utley, and Howard. And you know, they've really boxed themselves in a very, very tough predicament. There have been other players they were paying a fortune that they're finally starting to get off the books. And that one lined into right field, and the beat goes on for Brandon Phillips. Well, he is swinging the bat so well right now, and for Brandon, he has a season-high 8-game hitting streak.
He just simply owns the month of June. He started it really, maybe the series before the Reds went to Philadelphia, but in Philadelphia, he had to show this Phillies team that he may be the hottest guy in baseball. I mean, even when he made it out, it was a line drive somewhere. He and Ryan Howard got to be very good friends down there at first base in Philadelphia.
We mentioned the Reds have never defeated Cole Hamels. I mean, they had him around the neck last Wednesday night. They scored 2 off Hamels in 7 innings. The Reds got a 2-run home run by Votto against the Philadelphia bullpen in the 9th to carry a 4-0 lead into the bottom of the inning. Mike Leake was working on a 1-hit shutout. Leake allowed a couple of hits. In came Chapman. Got a run on a sac fly, and then a game-tying 3-run home run, a game the Phillies would win in extra innings to leave Hamels' record unblemished, including the postseason, a perfect 10-0 against Cincinnati. And really, not only that, you take it a little bit further in games where Hamels did not figure in the decision, and obviously not a losing decision. But he has started 14 games against the Reds, and the Phillies have won every one of those games, including the one, as we mentioned, last Wednesday night.
Well, one reason why is that he's handled Joey Votto. I thought coming into this series.
Phillips running, and there's ball 4, so the Reds have something cooking with 2 on and none out here in the first inning.
I think there's a little extra emotion going on between that battle between Votto and Cole Hamels, because in the game in Philadelphia, Cole Hamels low-bridged him. I mean, gave him some good old-fashioned chin music. Not the type of pitch that's going to hit the batter, but certainly it was enough to make Votto bail and then land on his behind when he tried to get out of the way of the pitch. Came back and struck him out. But that was the last at bat that he faced Hamels in. So that kind of continues on between those two guys. A little subplot to think about.
And Frazier will tie the game. He hooks one into left field. That'll play Brandon Phillips. 1-1 after 3 batters and nobody out.
Well, in the first inning of the game last week, the Reds came out swinging early in the count against Hamels, and they hit line drives all over the place. They did not score in the first inning, but everything they did hit was on the button. Read perfectly by Phillips. That did not take long.
Now Jay Bruce with 2 on and none out. Bruce takes knee high on the outside corner. Perfect pitcher's pitch there to get ahead, strike 1. Jay at 223, 9 home runs and 28 runs batted in. Has reached base safely in 19 of his last 20 games. He's behind Hamels at 0-2.
You know, if you go back to the 2 home runs that Bruce hit yesterday, mistake pitches by Espana, the Padre right-handed starter, but they were up and out over the plate. I mean, one was about a little above the waist, and the other was up almost out of the strike zone. But you see in this at bat, Hamels is keeping the ball down and away on Bruce.
Struck him out on 3 pitches. That's the first out here in the first inning. Let's look at the Phillies on defense. Presented by Ford. Herrera flanked by Ashe and Revere. In the outfield, Franco Galvis, Utley, Howard. Third to first. Hamels and Ruiz. Long time battery mates for Philadelphia. Here's Zach Kozoi. In the air, left center field. Revere watches as Herrera comes over to make the catch, and that'll be the second out of the inning.
There's that changeup that Hamels has, and kind of an interesting story really on Hamels and that changeup. A lot of people will say that a left-hander's changeup to a right-handed hitter is really even more effective than a right-hander's slider, especially if it's a good one like Hamels. Hamels developed that changeup in high school when he hurt his arm and he couldn't work on his curveball. So the only pitch he could work on off speed was his changeup. And that's where the foundation of that very good pitch started.
It's amazing what can happen sometimes when you have an injury. And Hamels, that's a moneymaker.
Yeah. And there, anything you see down and going away from a right-handed hitter in the low 80s like that last pitch, that's a changeup.
Very good numbers for DeJesus Jr. Down at AAA. There's a bouncer to third, and the inning is over. But the Reds get a couple of hits. They strand 2. They tie the game 1-1 at the end of 1.
Elk storylines for tonight's game. This is game number 1,000 in Great American Ballpark. Almost 27 million people have come through the turnstiles. Lots of home runs, including Adam Dunn with the most, 126, including the longest home run, 535 feet. And you look at the Reds' record on there, boys, and you were talking about SAT scores earlier. I was not great at math, but I can tell you that doesn't add up to 999. We're one game short. I think there's a story behind that.
You're right about that, Jim Day. It actually adds up to 998. So you say, what do you mean? There was a tie here at Great American Ballpark? And indeed there was. 2005, June 30th against the Houston Astros. The Reds played 7 innings. Game tied 2-2. And back in those old rules, when the game was suspended for the night due to what rain, that game and all the statistics go in the book. But you replay the game from scratch back then. So the Reds that year played 163 games instead of 162. That extra game, of course, being against the Astros. And in that 163rd game, it enabled Adam Dunn to hit home run number 40. So that was a very important extra game. In fact, that ought to be just, instead of saying that the record is 529, 469, and 1, you say the win-loss and Adam Dunn.
It's a good idea. Leadoff single by Freddie Galvis here in the second inning of a 1-1 game. Carlos Ruiz with a count of 1-1 strike.
This guy can hit a fastball a long way. That's the pitch you've got to be careful with when you get it in there to him.
St. Louis Cardinals wrapped up their series last night against the Dodgers by getting a win. 3 out of 4. The Cardinals won over the weekend, and now they play tonight in Denver. San Diego just left here. The return to Atlanta for Justin Upton and Craig Kimbrell. A couple of blockbuster deals in the offseason. The Pirates are at home. They will take on Milwaukee. In fact, that game is just underway. Pirates have won 7 of 10 to move into sole possession of second in the National League Central Division. They're now 6 games over 500. League has already surrendered more hits tonight in 1 inning and 1 batter. He allowed in 8+ innings of that Wednesday night no decision game against these very same Phillies.
Boy, he really had it going on that night. I mean, hitting spots, changing speeds. Phillies like to run out a lot of left-handers when they can. Against right-handed pitching, but it didn't do him any good that night.
Runner goes, and a bouncing ball right at Brandon. Steps on the bag, turns a double play. Well, a good fortune there for the Redlegs with Phillips on his way to cover the bag.
Kind of a weird play here, almost a courtesy play for Ruiz. Of course, you can't go in and barrel into the fielder at second base turning a double play. You've got to slide. I mean, you just can't go in there and try and tackle the guy. So really not much else Ruiz could do. Just very well placed hit. Excuse me, by Galvis. Well placed hit by Ruiz from Mike Leake's standpoint.
Cole Hamels 4 hits and 24 at bats this season. Left-handed pitcher, left-handed batter.
There's a lot of trade talk around Cole Hamels, but the fact is, when you trade for Cole Hamels, you're also trading for his contract. So you have to believe that age 31 through this season and 3 more, that he's going to be worth about $23 million per.
to Ohio. I'm Jim Day. If you caught yesterday's Reds Live postgame show, you saw that catcher Brian Pena accepted a challenge I put out to him. I said, you know what, I challenge you to come up to the set sometime on the postgame show. I don't think you'll do it. Lo and behold, yesterday after the victory, who showed up at Brian Pena? And we had a couple of good laughs. And I learned something that I had never known about Brian Pena. He would like to have broadcasting in his future. And even though he's got that $1 million smile, he wants to do radio in the off season. About 3 days a week, he takes part in a show in Orlando that has nothing to do with baseball. Literally, fans or listeners call in and ask life questions. He says he's answered marriage questions and how to raise children and questions about the economy. Obviously, questions about Cuba. So the guy is very, very well-rounded. And don't look now, but Brian Pena might have a future in broadcasting.
Well, anybody who's ever had a chance to visit with him, I don't think that comes as a surprise at all. The part about a future in broadcasting, it is surprising what you mentioned about his radio show and some of the things that he's talking about and questions he's taking from callers on the radio. Cowboy better look out.
You know, it's funny how Brian Pena came to the Reds as an extra guy, brought in from Detroit, and now has made, essentially with the injury to Devin Mesoraco, has made himself perhaps one of the most indispensable players on this ball club. How quickly things can change. I mean, there got to be teams that are out there looking for a catcher. He's a switch hitting catcher. He handles himself well behind the plate. He's a great guy in the clubhouse. He does all the things you'd love to have on somebody new coming into your clubhouse. No baggage. So I'm sure there are teams asking about it, but I mean, how could the Reds even think about dealing him unless they got a catcher in return?
Well, what, he got a 2-year deal, right?
I believe so.
So he would be up at the end of this year. And you're right. I mean, unfortunately, because of the injuries to Devin Mesoraco last year and again this year, Joey Votto as well last year, because, you know, the other part of the mix hit, he had never played first base. Wound up playing a pretty doggone good first base for the Reds last year. And he played it a lot. As it's 3-2 on Mike Leake. And all of a sudden, I mean, he's not going to be one of the big ticket money free agents, but he is going to be a heavily coveted guy. Leake gone swinging after getting ahead in the count 3-1. Cole Hamels has his second strikeout, and the base is empty. 2 out for Billy Hamilton. Speaking of Devin Mesoraco, we'll tell you about him in a minute, but you can follow the Reds wherever you are with MLB.com at bat. And you got in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, StatCast, and so much more. Get MLB.com at bat for your smartphone or tablet. Jim Day told you a couple of days ago that Devin Mesoraco was going out immediately to play left field to start a rehab. And that begins tonight up in Columbus, Ohio, playing, of course, for Louisville. Devin has been on the disabled list since May the 25th with that impingement in his left hip. Has not caught since the second week of April. But worked out the entire weekend with Billy Hatcher, the Reds outfield instructor. Was out there working as if he were playing in a game in left field once batting practice began. We talked about how good he looked and how well he was moving around out there. And so he's in the lineup right now up in Columbus, Ohio. Now, Jim Day, you have spent a lot of your life living in Columbus, Ohio, and I would imagine you probably have a lot of close sources up there. Keep us up to speed on what's going on.
Indeed. He is there through 3 innings. They're going to the top of the third, I should say. And no ball's been hit to left field. He's 0 for 1. And also Jason Bourgeois is beginning a rehab stint. He is leading off and playing center field tonight. So according to what I've got here, no ball has been hit to left field yet.
All right, well, Jim Day will stay all over that. So, Jimbo, thank you. 2-2 on Billy. And it's fouled off. Howard just beyond his reach.
You know, we haven't heard the name Jason Bourgeois since spring training, when he essentially broke his shoulder down there. Didn't know he had broken it. Stayed in the lineup for a couple of days and ended up realizing when he went to bunt, I guess he separated the bone somehow and went down in pain. but he's worked very hard to get back, and that is an interesting development.
Sure is.
Because he had a great spring, and a veteran outfielder, gives the team a little speed.
Nice piece of hitting right there by Billy Hamilton. He shoots one by Utley into right field for a 2-out single.
Billy finally gets a turnaround and back from the right side and just goes down there and slap it.
You know, you bring up Bourgeois, Chris, and I couldn't agree more with you. You know, this was a guy who, because of the way he played in spring training last year, the way he played in Louisville last year, then once he came up to the big league club where he got some pretty decent playing time, and then, as you mentioned, again this spring, he would have been on the opening day roster.
He certainly played like he earned his spot on the roster. I don't know if it would have ended up him being there, because there were a lot of developments at the end of camp. So sometimes what happens is, you know, it looks like you're going to start cutting a whole bunch of really good players, and then things happen like an injury to Bourgeois. It opens up a spot on the disabled list and then makes the decision easier for the Reds and so on. But I mean, they didn't sign him just to play AAA. I wouldn't think.
No, if you remember, once Bourgeois went down in spring training, it opened the door for fellas like Brennan Bosch and for Chris Dominguez. Now, Dominguez made the opening day roster, so too did Bosch. But Dominguez was able to do what Bourgeois can do, and that is play the infield and the outfield on defense. I mean, we've seen Bourgeois play second base, play third base, anywhere in the outfield. That's a valuable man to have on your team. And when he went down, that spot opened, and it was primarily Dominguez who took advantage of it. Of course, Bosch has got to wonder if he will ever play again. No, Schumacher got a number of starts out of left field. There goes Hamilton, and he is in there safely with his 24th stolen base. He's only been thrown out 4 times. An RBI chance to break a 1-1 tie for Brandon Phillips. He singled to right field in the first inning and scored the Reds' only run on the single by Frazier. Hamels ahead of Brandon at 1 ball, 2 strikes. Votto hoping for a chance here in the Reds' second inning. Go ahead run is Hamilton out at second base, and the 2-2 to Brandon is a dribbler foul. Hamilton takes off for third. That one sailed high and wide of the batter, and that's stolen base 25 for Billy Hamilton. The stolen base percentages for Hamilton this year have just been off the charts. We mentioned now 25 of 29. Last year he led the league, thrown out the most times trying to steal bases among all National Leaguers. There's ball 4 low to Phillips, and here comes Hamilton, and he's going to score. Can you believe that?
Now Carlos Ruiz is saying, hey, wasn't there timeout or something, or can't you do something about that? And Ryan Sandberg is going to have a conversation, I think, in the dugout with Larry Bowa. But Bowa is saying, no go. There is nothing you can do about that. That's a heads-up play by Hamilton, and you simply cannot put your head down with him on the base paths. Man, I love that. check swing right here. They're going to check down there to first base. He didn't go, but still Ruiz throws to first base anyway.
That is a steal of home. So Hamilton stole second, stole third, stole home. Wow.
They checked the first base umpire at the same time the catcher threw to first base. As it turns out, they decided he didn't go. And Ruiz kind of had a bonehead play there in Philadelphia. When with bases loaded, and they walked a player intentionally to get bases loaded, a ground ball came to the infield. And the play came to the plate, and instead of just tagging home plate, he went and tried to tag the runner out, but in the process was called for blocking the plate without the ball, where he could have just played it as a first baseman.
And by the way, they have just changed the scoring decision on that. It is not a stolen base of home plate. Instead, it is scored a fielder's choice.
Fielder's choice of what? Throwing the first base when a guy has 4 balls on him?
I guess. I thought it would have been a stolen base of home.
Now, it's a tough scoring decision because it's an unusual play.
Sure.
That you never see, and you're looking for a precedent somewhere. And I'm sure Ron Roth, who's the official scorer tonight, is going to do some research to find out that he made the right call. But it sounds kind of funny on the surface.
Yeah, the Reds are so blessed to have guys like Ron Roth and Mike Cameron as official scorers, of course, forever. It was the legendary Glenn Sample, Hall of Famer at the University of Cincinnati as a player and later a coach, multiple sports. 0-2 to Votto. And that'll end the inning. But the Reds get a run, and they jump in front of Hamels and the Phillies. 2-1 game. The All-Star Game. You can vote 35 times on the 2015 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot at Reds.com. Vote early, vote often at Reds.com. Reds with a 2-1 lead. Top of the order for the Phillies. It's Ben Revere. He looks at a breaking ball strike. You know, before the game today, and I mean, I feel like I know the guy, and I just met him 5 minutes ago. Because like many of you, we live in Cincinnati year-round and read so much about Luke Kennard from Franklin High School, back-to-back years. Mr. Basketball in the state of Ohio. He signed his letter of intent and will play for Mike Krzyzewski and the defending national champion Duke Blue Devils. You and I were standing up here and we said, all right, we know he can drain the three from about 30 feet out, but can he throw it to home plate? Not bad.
Right there.
Not bad. But it's got to be so exciting. Going to go down there in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
And he's only a couple of weeks away from going down to Duke full time now. Towards the end of June, he'll report down there. Of course, at Duke, you live over on the freshman part of campus, and you take those shuttle buses back to the classes and the other parts of campus and to the Cameron Center.
1-1 pitch. You know, I've had a chance to know Coach Krzyzewski for a long time. Chicago guy, and he still to this day did me one of the great favors of anybody that I've ever had a chance to meet. When I was just a young sports guy working over at Channel 5 100 years ago, I sent him a letter just thanking him. Next thing I know, I get a letter and a phone call, and that's the kind of guy he is. I was just some, you know, rug rat over here at Channel 5 just doing the best you could, and gotten to know him a lot more through the years. In fact, he and I played phone tag about 3 weeks ago. I was thinking about sending our son down there to the Duke basketball camp. That thing filled up pretty quick.
I bet it did.
And I wasn't going to ask for a favor. I didn't do it. You know, my dad's pushing for Carolina. So Monday he's going to Notre Dame.
That's pretty strong.
Well, his wife's a Notre Dame alum. So, I mean, his mom, not his wife. That'd be news if he had a wife. 10's a wee bit early.
Not sure what happened to Herrera right there. Too young to have bad knees.
Yes. Two and two on Herrera. He's still not back in that box. He's hurting a little bit now. Well, speaking of local high school great talents, Chris, you and I were talking about this young man 3 years ago. Andrew Benintendi from Madera High School.
Yeah.
Could be named the Golden Spikes Collegiate Player of the Year. He's down to the Final Four. He's already been named the SEC Player of the Year. Just drafted with the 7th pick in the Major League Baseball draft by the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
How about that?
Very impressive.
Congratulations to Andrew Benintendi, a Madera Mustang, an Arkansas Razorback, and now drafted by the Boston Red Sox.
What an exciting night for the family, the community over there in Madera, all of his amateur coaches and teammates. I mean, there'll be a number of kids drafted from the Cincinnati area. But when you're drafted number 7 in the first round, that puts you in special company. Congratulations, Andrew.
Man, that is so exciting. You know, he was a great basketball player too. I mean, he wasn't built like Luke. That is a fair ball down the left field line. And this will be a 2-base hit by Herrera, who was able to run pretty well there after fouling that ball off and taking a long time to get back in the box. So he represents a tying run out there at second base with 1 out here in the 3rd.
Not exactly limping into second base right here.
Chase Utley struck out on 3 pitches his first time up. They've got a shot. No, they decided not to. Kozar going to take the sure out. A sure second out of the inning.
Smart play by Kozar. You know, for 2 reasons. Number 1, has to be a throw right on the money. And if it goes bad, the inning could really blow up on you. And number 2, when you're running from second to third, you're going to see the running lane is going to be taken up by the runner. So he really doesn't have a clear shot to Frazier, especially if Herrera wants to run a couple of steps on the outfield side of first or third base. And then he could be hitting the back with the ball, and then you've got really problems in the inning. So up to Lake to make some better pitches to Ryan Howard here.
And Howard got him with a 2-out double into right center field to knock in Philadelphia's only run in the first inning. What a play by Votto, and they get the out. What an outstanding play made by Joey Votto to the glove side up the right field line on a hot smash by Ryan Howard. Reds 2, Phillies 1. We go to the bottom of the third. We talked about Hamels and Ruiz, longtime battery mates, 25th starting pitcher catcher combo in Major League Baseball history to work 200 or more games together. Wow. 20 of those 25 battery combinations have gone on to win World Series, as Hamels and Ruiz did in 2008 when they beat the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Or they might have been the Rays by then. I think that name change actually changed their luck, if I remember right. Reds 2, Phillies 1. Frazier, Bruce, and Kozoi due up against Hamels, a pitcher, if you're just joining us, the Reds have never beaten. Even in games where he received a no decision, the Reds never won one of those 14 games. And if you throw in that dominant playoff performance, of course, in that series in 2010, none more dominant than Roy Halladay throwing a no-hitter in game 1. But Hamels was sensational in game 3 here in Cincinnati. And Frazier will leg out an infield hit to begin the third inning.
There was a stretch there where Todd Frazier was hitting the ball right on the button and really having nothing to show for it. Everything he hit was right at somebody. And then he's had a night like tonight. Little blooper in the left field, gets a base hit in the first inning to score a run. Here he gets a little chopper over the head of the pitcher. And he'll never tell you that they all even out, because they always think that they goes against them. But it's beginning to even out a little bit.
Yeah, for him, you're right. It is. 1-0 to Jay Bruce. He struck out his first time up. Hopefully none of that rain that had pretty much surrounded the Cincinnati area will hit us during the course of this one here tonight. Because right now it is just a beautiful night. It was on the muggy side maybe about an hour and a half ago, but that seems to be blowing out of here. Clearing skies are coming in tonight. High tomorrow is only 80 degrees. Very low humidity. Jay not sure about that one, but Fox Tracks confirmed the call by Brian Gorman. Strike 2 on Bruce. You know, a very interesting note on this date in baseball history in 1968. Remember, Orel Hershiser broke Don Drysdale's all-time consecutive scoreless inning streak. Drysdale's streak ended on this date in 1968 at 58 2/3, and it ended on a sac fly off the bat of Howie Bedell of the Philadelphia Phillies. As fate would have it, it would be Bedell's only run batted in the entire season. Two and two to count on Jay Bruce. Full count.
Well, to finish the story on Howie Bedell, he only had 3 runs batted in his entire career. Played only 2 years in the major leagues. 1 year or part of a year in 1962, and then 6 years later in 1968, that's when he broke Don Drysdale's record. Played in 9 games, had 1 hit in 7 at bats, and 1 RBI.
1 RBI. Hey, by the way, we were talking about Andrew Benintendi, right, from Madeira High School, 7th pick in the draft. Make it 2 Cincinnati ties, if you will, from the University of Cincinnati. Ian Happ has just been chosen with the 9th pick overall in the draft. He goes to the Chicago Cubs.
Guy takes a rip now.
Look at those numbers. Like Benintendi on that precious few list for the Golden Spikes Award, he got down to the final 15. Benintendi's now down to the final 4.
Happ is a guy, you know, a little bit of a down year this year for the Bearcats baseball wise. Not a lot of protection in that lineup. But the few videos that I've seen, he takes a hack now. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations indeed. Tenth pitch in the at bat is bounced foul. Pitch of the at bat.
Yeah, too bad there because he chased it and realized too late it was ball 4. Hamels can do that to you, especially if you're a left-handed hitter. I mean, he's got enough fastball that you can't wait back too long.
If you're wondering, Happ did not grow up in Cincinnati. He is a Pittsburgh kid, but decided to come here and play baseball, and well, what a career he had. And now a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. One ball and 2 strikes on Zach Cozart. The Reds lead here 2-1. They're batting in the last of the 3rd. Frazier with an infield single to start it. Bruce goes down on strikes after an 11-pitch at bat.
Yeah, the Reds are making Hamels work. This is pitch number 62, so he's sweating out there a little bit.
In the air, a long run for everyone, and just short of getting there in time is Utley. Well, this Philadelphia franchise was flying high as you look at Utley just a bit late in front of the tarp.
Utley, Rollins, Victorino, Howard,
Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, Cole Hamels. You know, they went to the division series in 2007 when that group was so young. That ball hooked into left field, and it sails over the head of the converted third baseman Ashe. Rounding third and coming in to score is Frazier. That'll be a double for Cozart, a 3-1 lead.
You can't blame that one on the sun, but there is more to playing left field than simply going out there and catching pop-ups. The line drive right at you, any outfielder will tell you, is the toughest one of all. And as soon as he makes a couple of steps of a break in, he realizes, oops. Well, we saw that happen a couple of times this weekend against a very good outfielder, Will Venable.
And that's the sort of thing that Reds fans are going to have to live with once Devin Mesoraco gets here. If, you know, everything goes well for him health-wise down there, playing up in Columbus for Louisville. His first game on a rehab assignment tonight. And, you know, for Ashe, they just sent him out less than a month ago to learn how to play left field in the minor leagues. And they got him right back up to the major league club. Ball and 2 strikes on Ivan De Jesus Jr. And a breaking ball low and in. You know, you look back on, you know, the Phillies in 07. They were swept 3 in a row by the upstart Colorado Rockies. Hamels lost in game 1 of that series. But then in 2008, they beat Milwaukee 3-1 in the division series. Just hammered the Dodgers 4-1. Hamels winning twice in that league championship series. Then Hamels came right back to win game 1 of the World Series in 5 games. Philadelphia celebrating a title. In 2009, they once again blitzed through the LCS, blitzed through the Dodgers again in the LCS, but then lost to the Yankees. And that would start a succession of going from World Series champion, league champion, division series winner to division series loss. Liner to second for the second out of the inning, and they've never been back since. And to add even further misery, in that 2011 division series 5-game loss to the St. Louis Cardinals, That is when Ryan Howard, in the final at bat of the series against the Cardinals, tore his Achilles tendon. And seemingly from that moment on, the Phillies have never been the same since.
Well, what this Phillies team has done is gotten old fast. They knew they had a lot of contracts that were going to take players into the twilight of their careers, but injuries accelerated all that aging process, and they're stuck with some big contracts and wondering what they're going to do in the future.
Reds have scored 3 straight innings against Hamels and lead 3-1. Weekly, one of the greatest Cuban-born baseball players ever. Reds Hall of Famer and Baseball Hall of Famer Tony Perez has had a big influence on a pair of Reds Cuban players. Brandon Phillips continues to showcase a Gold Glove defense. Another great play over the weekend. And more from Jim Day's interview with Pete Rose. An all-new Reds Weekly debuts Wednesday, 6 o'clock. Jeff Pecoro and Doug Flynn, your host for that. Reds 3, Phillies 1. Franco to lead off the inning. It's in there, a strike. Well, they're really excited about this young man's arrival to the big leagues. And they've been patient with this guy now. Last year at AAA, led his team in so many categories and among the top 3 or 4 in virtually every category in the entire league. They brought him up in September, made 14 starts for the Phillies last year. And again was tearing it up in AAA. It's been being brought up. He has 6 home runs, 16 batted in, leads the team with 46 total bases, and second only to Ryan Howard in extra base hits. And here's another one. On his way to second, and he will slam on the brakes right there with a double to start the 4th inning.
Now, we saw him at his best in Philadelphia. He was pulling the ball to left field. And I'm not so sure he knew that ball was going to right field, but he's ripping that bat through there pretty well.
The Reds have just made their selection. 10th pick overall in the Major League Baseball. I beg your pardon, 11th overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft. Phillies pick 10th. And the Reds have chosen a catcher, Tyler Stevenson. The 11th pick overall out of Kennesaw Mountain High School in Kennesaw, Georgia. And Chris, he's a big man.
He's a big guy, 6 feet 5 inches tall or 6'4", whichever list you see, over 200 pounds. The scouts say he moves very well behind the plate. And regarded, Tom, and what I've been reading, as one of the, if not the best high school catcher in the country. So the Reds probably think they did a pretty good job, because there were some rumors that the Arizona Diamondbacks, who picked first, were thinking about taking him.
Chris Buckley, of course, the Reds director of scouting. The Reds have a couple of early picks. The 11th overall, followed by 2 picks in the 2nd round. They get the 49th pick and the 71st pick in the competitive balanced 2nd round. And their next picks are expected much later tonight. In fact, their 3rd selection is not expected until more than likely this game would be over. But we'll let you know about the 2nd pick when we get there. 0-2 on Ashe, runner at 2nd, none out. And we'll do it again. Now, Chris, I think the first thing a lot of Reds fans might wonder, and you have a really good feel for, realistically what the timetable is for a guy like Stevenson. But here you are on a day where Devin Mesoraco is being moved to left field for his very first rehab game. And I would imagine a lot of Reds fans are saying, Mike, the Reds have changed their decision as recently as the last few days, when they've, gotten together and huddled up to say, now look, Stevenson, would he be here in enough time to supplant the idea of Mesoraco being your long-term guy?
I think it's more coincidence than anything.
Okay.
I really do. I think in football, you draft to your weakness. You have a hole. You need a defensive back. You draft some defensive backs. But in baseball, especially a high school catcher, I mean, you're looking at 4 or 5 years.
Like Mesoraco was.
I mean, he was the last top-round pick that the Reds used on a high school catcher. A lot of people shake their head because, statistically speaking, high school catchers wash out at a higher rate than other position players out of high school. Doesn't mean that those catchers don't get converted to third base or outfield somewhere along the line. Well, I got to think that most teams, when you read their comments and you talk to their scouts and their front office operatives, they say, we want the best player with the best ceiling who's on the board at that time. And I don't think there's any debate that he is the, if not one of the best, he is the best high school catcher out there. And he might be the best player in all the draft available at the time the Reds picked, number 11.
Ashe not making it easy on Leake after Mike quickly got ahead 0-2.
He's the guy, though, if you remember, and you may have seen it. I don't know if you get on Vine or not, which is it's an online video thing where people put. Anyway, he has a famous bat flip. He had a home run in the Georgia playoffs, and he did a bat flip that is right there with the best bat flip you've ever seen, if you like that kind of stuff.
That's a real good at bat right there by Ashe. Fell behind 0-2, worked it to 2-2, and hammers one into right center field. And now the Phillies are threatening to put a dent into this 3-1 lead. Runners on the corners and nobody out.
That's a changeup by Mike Leake, and he just doesn't get that ball down. When that ball leaves your fingers as a changeup, you've really got to make sure your fingers are on top and you're driving that ball down rather than side to side. I made a comment earlier about how he's been working hard on trying to take more velocity off that changeup. But the numbers aren't there yet as far as really deadening that pitch.
Well, Mike has work to do. Runners on the corners, none out. And here's Freddie Galvis, who singled into right field his first time up. on it, fouled out of play. Grounded to Votto. He'll come to the plate. In a rundown now. They have Franco. Frazier to Votto. Tag made, and the other runners advance just 90 feet.
Well, the fielder's choice, Votto's got two choices. One is to turn a double play. You can do it a couple of different ways. Throw to second and then have it come back to first, or step on the bag and get a force play. But he decides right here to get the lead runner in a 2-run game. And gives Mike Leake a chance now to get out of this inning with no runs given up. The Phillies were certain that they were going to try a double play right there. That's why they sent Franco.
Well, that one clanks right off the glove of Tucker Barnhart. So the runners are going to advance second to third.
Classic cross-up. You can see Barnhart going one way looking for a breaking ball. The fastball going another way to the screen. That's really the kind of thing. These guys have been working together the last few games. In fact, Barnhart has become Mike Leake's personal catcher, really. And at this point in the season, that kind of mistake shouldn't happen. That's lack of concentration on somebody's part.
When I know that Carlos Ruiz and a line drive base hit, and after the pass ball, this game is tied. Well, they are really hitting Mike Leake hard tonight. That is 8 base hits, and we're through 3 1/3 innings.
They're not really knocking the cover off the ball, but they're taking what Leake is giving them, which is pitches up, staying inside the ball. Nice little singles opposite field. Franco goes opposite field. Cody Ash hits a ball on a line, but a single.
They had Ruiz running on that pitch. That looked like a hit and run with a pitcher. Cole Hamels up there.
He nearly pulled it off.
Three runs, 8 hits, 4 singles, 4 doubles for Philadelphia. 3 runs, 5 hits. All of the Reds' hits, or 4 of the 5, have been singles. That one bunted perfectly by Hamels, and that will advance a go-ahead run into scoring position. Coming up later on, it'll be Miller time right here on Fox Sports Ohio. That's brought to you by Miller Lite. We're only in the 4th inning, and Ben Revere, the Philadelphia leadoff hitter, is stepping to the plate for the 3rd time. He doubled down the right field line leading off the game. Scored on the double by Ryan Howard. And then bounced out to Votto in the 3rd. Breaking ball drops on the outside corner, a called strike. The Phillies come in with the 2nd worst record in all of baseball. Only the Milwaukee Brewers have a lesser winning percentage than .379 baseball being played by Ryne Sandberg's team. Nothing in 2 on Revere. The New York Mets are now the National League East leaders. Boy, ever since the Nationals came in here as the hottest team on the globe, they have just been taken apart. They were swept here, of course, by the Reds, got kicked around over the weekend by the Cubs. And they have dropped into second place behind the Mets. Inning over. 3 hits, 2 runs after 3.5. We expected a pitcher's duel. Right now, lots of hitting going on. th 20th, and 21st, thanks to Reach Savings Magazine. You know the drill. For $48, you get the 4 tickets and you get 4 Reds hats. Now, where are you going to beat that? And don't forget, during that weekend, they had the big bobblehead giveaway on the Saturday game against the Marlins. Call 513-381-REDS or visit Reds.com/4448. Carlos Ruiz, a game-tying 2-run single. Or even at 3 as Mike Leake leads off the Reds' bottom half of the 4th inning. Oh, and 2 on Leake. He'll be followed by Billy Hamilton and then Brandon Phillips. 3 runs, 8 hits for Philadelphia. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Redlegs. Pass ball high and tight. Foul ball. Still a ball and 2 strikes on Mike Leake. Leake struck out his first time up and does so for a second time, and that's the way we start the bottom half of the 4th inning.
Got him on the same pitch each time.
Run, Billy, run. We talk about it all the time in the 2nd inning with 2 outs and nobody on. They got a base hit into right field. Stole second base, his 24th of the year. Stole third base, his 25th of the year. And after an appeal on a check swing with Brandon Phillips at the plate, when the throw went down to first, it was ball 4. Billy raced home. And in the time, it broke a 1-1 tie.
Yeah, it's the only time that he went head first was into the plate when there was really no play on him. I like seeing him go in feet first into second base and third.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. And a big swing and a miss. Swung right over the top of that one, down and in on him. You know, today is the anniversary of the first ever Major League draft. We've talked about the very first pick in that draft in the history of baseball. That was Rick Monday. Now, do you know who the first 2 Reds picks were in the first ever Major League draft?
Now, what year was that draft?
1965. Bouncer down to Ryan Howard for the second out of the inning. If a Red hits a home run off the PNC Power Stacks Toyota sign out there. Off the Toyota sign. Levi Jones. I wonder if that's a... No, probably not. He's from Batavia, Ohio, out in beautiful Claremont County. He would win that Tundra. And you can register for your chance to win at an upcoming game. Just stop by your Cincinnati and or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. 2 down, nobody on. Brandon Phillips has singled, scored, drawn a walk. The first round pick of the Reds, their very first ever draft choice in 1965, Bernie Carbo. In the second round, they took some fella from the state of Oklahoma named Johnny Lee Bench. An interesting footnote, thanks to Joe Luckup, our statistician. Johnny Bench was the 8th overall, the 8th catcher chosen in that 1965 draft. So 7 other catchers in the first round and a half were taken before Johnny Bench.
That's amazing.
Nice play by Hamels. And he has his first scoreless inning of the night. We go to the 5th. We're tied at 3.
A very special event earlier today at Great American Ballpark. The National Play Campaign was hosted by Jay Bruce, Paul Lassard, the head trainer of the Reds, and his staff, and the Taylor Hooten Foundation. And what this does, it's a campaign formed to raise awareness about children's health issues and the obesity epidemic in the United States. They've conducted more than 150 events inside of 30 Major League ballparks, and Jay talked about this before the game, and he said he just feels a moral duty to do it, and he was very surprised at the knowledge that these kids had, not only about nutrition, but about how bad PEDs are, performance-enhancing drugs, or drugs in general. It was very much opened his eyes and said, hey, we might have a chance in these next generations, because he was very impressed with those kids this morning.
Good stuff for Jay Bruce.
You know, a lot of these guys, players, do things that really go undetected. A lot of them want it under the radar. Junior did a lot when he was here, Ken Griffey Jr., and really never wanted it broadcast. He was out doing certain things. They're busy all the time, and believe me, they are asked to do things a dozen times a day, and all very worthy causes. And it's very difficult to make choices to say, you know, I can do this, but I can't do that.
Well, that was one of the messages that we heard last night, and then you heard today. One of our favorite people, and truly he's become a Cincinnati icon. He has been one of the great pillars of our community for so long. He is the legendary longtime Cincinnati Bengal Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz. Anthony and his wife Dee Dee 14 years ago started the Anthony Munoz Foundation, and you know, he had said to everybody at the dinner last night, hey, look, I know all of you in this room are asked to do so much and so many wonderful charities and worthy causes out there. And boy, the work they've done. They gave away $140,000 of college scholarship money last night. There's a line drive to left field. You were part of that today, Chris, playing in his golf tournament. They had the kickoff dinner last night. I mean, they had the Hall of Fame football players that were in that room last night from all over the country. You know, if you're a football fan, even a casual football fan, as these names were being read off and introduced to the crowd, you're like, my goodness. And that is the kind of response that Anthony gets, whether he's hanging out in Mason, up where he's lived for a long time, or whether he's traveling all over the world. He's been giving back to this community for a long, long time.
You're right.
I shouldn't say just him. Him and his wife Dee Dee, and all of Michelle and Michael, the whole gang. And everybody who's involved in the entire charity and the foundation. I mean, they had dozens and dozens of volunteers out there yesterday and today running around. It was quite an event. I got to meet Jan Stenerud today. Saw him last night. Wow. How about that? He looks like $1 million. He sure does. For as bad as a lot of those guys you see, you know, where it's painful to watch them walk around. Here's a fly ball to straightaway center field. The guys that were at his event last night and again today, I don't know how many of you had a chance to meet besides, you know, Jan Stenerud, but, you know, whether you're talking about Ronnie Lott or John Stallworth, I mean, the list goes on. And Kellen Winslow, you know, just on and on of the guys that were in town for that event. And they all looked really good. A lot of them did. A couple of them were complaining about the knees when they go down the men's locker room. They have to walk up a couple of flights of steps. It would have been nice to have maybe an elevator there, but you know, back in the old days, those knees take a beating. I was listening to a couple of the guys talk about their knee surgeries back in the day. Sure. Boy, it's amazing they ever came back. A 1-2-3 fifth for Mike Leake. He needed that. Reds come to bat with Votto, Frazier, Bruce coming up. more coverage. Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Cavaliers and the Warriors. Cavs Live hits the air following the final buzzer. Extensive highlights, analysis, interviews. The Cavs continue their quest for the first NBA championship in franchise history. And man, oh man, is LeBron James something else.
Boy.
I mean, this guy, I don't even care if you're a fan of basketball, and I never watch the NBA. What this guy is doing, there's a grounder down to first base, and that'll take care of Votto to begin the Reds' 5th inning in this 3-3 game. He has taken that franchise, that city, and this current team and put it all on his back, and laying it on the line every second of every game.
Guy's got to be
incredible to watch.
He's tired after what he has done. Amazing.
Golly day, is he something to watch, man. I mean, if you love sports and you just love to watch a guy who is laying it on the line, that is the guy.
There's a lot. I think there's a lot of guys that lay it on the line, but you combine laying it on the line with immense talent.
Yes, well put. Very well put.
I mean, some guys have to lay it on the line just to compete at the highest level.
Because Delly's the guy that's laying it on the line, but maybe not the talent. It's my new favorite guy, Delly. Did you watch a little bit of that last night?
Yeah, I sure did.
Two and one to Frazier, and that's too low. 3 balls and a strike. Todd, a run scoring single to left center to get the Reds on the board in the first inning, and had an infield hit and scored in the 3rd.
You know, if the Reds have a long inning here for Hamels, this might be his last inning. They have not pitched him any more than 117 pitches in a game. That was a couple of starts ago, but normally he's around 105 or so. It's number 92. Now he's got a couple outs and may be tough to do unless you get a pretty good rally going. But either way you look at it, it will be a bullpen game before too long for the Phillies.
And for the Reds.
Yeah. Well, under the category of you never know who's watching, it's raining in Pittsburgh. We got the Brew Crew TV staff and broadcasters watching us tonight. So hi to Brian Anderson and Bill Schroeder, The Rock. Gentlemen, did you read where they got locked in their booth and had to be rescued by a ladder?
I did not hear that.
It was right after we left town.
Really?
Don't worry, they're okay.
Well, I really wouldn't worry.
The doorknob fell off the booth. They couldn't get out. Well, you better hope that doesn't happen here.
Somebody's trying right now. They're good guys. Brian and Rock, that whole staff.
Oh, yeah. Throw a little euchre in there.
Oh, man. No question. Joe Black, his partner. It's just a really good group. Jay Bruce had an 11-pitch at bat his last time up. It ended with his 2nd straight strikeout against Cole Hamels. And here he is 3-2 with 2 down and none on in a 3-3 game, last of the 5th inning. This time he goes down looking, and he did not like that call by Brian Gorman. 8 in a row now retired by Hamels. We move to the 6th, tied at 3. Sports Ohio, brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. By Meyer, find more for a healthier you at Meyer. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on the U.S. News and World Report's best children's hospitals in America. Phillies back. Maikel Franco, first pitch swinging. And into center field, a base hit. That is number 9 for the Phillies tonight. 5 singles, 4 doubles. And Franco's a perfect 3 out of 3. My, oh my, has he come to the big leagues and dazzled this year for the Philadelphia Phillies.
And his hit chart looks pretty good. 1 to left, 1 to center, 1 to right.
You know, the Phillies believe that they are really not going to be far off from being a decent team again. Now, you hear that from a lot of people, a lot of different organizations. You know, yeah, this guy, this guy, this guy. But they have a number of players already at the Double-A level that they feel like are not far away, along with some youngsters you're getting a look at here tonight in their lineup. And one thing Philadelphia certainly does have, the Phillies have money to spend. You're talking about, you know, top 5, 6, 7 market in the country. And by the time some of those younger players, if they make it, they'll be out from some of these contracts that have really held them down for a long time. You know, we're talking about the contracts of Halladay and Cliff Lee. Papelbon, their closers, making a ton. Howard, Utley, Ruiz.
Well, the question is, I think, Tom, do they have enough arms?
Two and one on Ashe. He's lined out to Billy Hamilton, singled into right center field, and scored on the 2-run single which tied the game by Ruiz in the 4th inning. This is another extra base hit. This will be the 5th double in this game for the Phillies. They're going to hold the runner at 3rd. 10 hits.
You really got to like this kid's swing. I mean, he is quick to the ball. No loop. He looks a little like Utley up there with that swing. Keeps a nice solid front side, head down on the ball. A couple of hits for him, plus a line drive out.
Well, now you have the left-handed batting Freddie Galvis, 1 of 2. Reeds on the fielder's choice. With runners at 1st and 3rd, his last time up hit a ground ball right at Votto, and they cut down the runner trying to come in from 3rd base. But Galvis wound up scoring on that base hit by Ruiz. Phillies have not led in the game. 0-1 on Galvis. Grounded foul. Nick Adcock, just brought up from the minor leagues, Kentucky native, begins to loosen for the first time in the Reds bullpen. Inning starts with a single by Franco. He goes to third on a double by Ashe. Reds had a 3-1 lead before the Phillies tied it on the 2-run single by Ruiz in the 4th inning, and now the Phils are threatening to take the lead. Second and third and nobody out. Popped up, foul territory, and that will drift in amongst the fans. It's still 1-2 on Galvis.
Yeah, Mike Leake is trying to find a put-away pitch here for Galvis. He's tried breaking balls down, fastballs in, and Galvis is just protecting the plate. We've seen a lot of these at bats on both sides tonight.
'85 pitches for Leake. 2 on, none out, 1-2. Just miss that outside corner. Leake hoping to get that call, does not.
Or at least hoping to have Galvis swing at it. After 6 in a row up and in, just misses down and away.
8th pitch in this at bat, and a 2-2 count on Freddie Galvis. Got him a chase that time, and that's out number 1. 3rd strikeout of the game for Mike.
Well, dialing it up. Good spot right there for Mike Leake. Puts Galvis away, as pesky as he was. That's our flamethrower of the night, brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. 90 miles an hour on that 4-seamer.
Well, now you got to believe they're going to intentionally walk. Yep, they throw out the hand. You have the pitcher Hamels on deck, and there's no one getting loose in the Phillies bullpen. It'll be the first walk issued by Leake in the game, and it will load the bases for Hamels.
Well, this is just a situation where Brian Price is trying to force the hand. I mean, he knows what the bullpen activity is or is not. So it'll be Cole Hamels all the way in a tie game. I mean, if it's anybody but Hamels on this pitching staff, he's not in the batter's box now. It's a pinch hitter.
All right, they're loaded. Hamels does not have an RBI this season. He's 0 for 1 tonight. Put down a sacrifice his last time up. He has 4 hits in 25 at bats. A 3-3 game with the bases loaded and 1 out. And it's strike 1.
In fact, it's been a long time since Cole Hamels has driven a run, and oh, that's got to hurt. He batted .210 last year, but no damage. Did not drive a run in with any of his 13 hits. This year he's got 4 hits with no runs batted in. So he hadn't driven a run in since 2013.
If you're wondering, Hamels, however, has hit a grand slam. That came in 2013.
What do you think of this move by Brian Sandberg here? I mean, are you that reluctant to turn it over to your bullpen?
Well, see, he's seen him a lot more than we have. And if the Reds were doing this and you were sitting in the Phillies booth, swing and a miss, strike 3.
Sandberg saying at least it wasn't a double play ball.
You know, perhaps, and you're just throwing it out there, but perhaps Sandberg is saying, hey, look, I know the Reds have to go to their bullpen tonight, too. And we have 3 cracks at them. So maybe he says, I'll take my chances with getting 1 more inning or more out of Hamels on the mound. And the Reds haven't had a base runner since the third. And maybe he feels like his team can come back and beat the Reds bullpen. He saw him do it twice last week in Philadelphia. All right, now Ben Revere. Strike one. Well, they're back at it after a rain delay in Pittsburgh. Milwaukee a 1-0 lead over the Pirates. Here we're at 3-3. Phillies with the bases loaded. They let Hamels bat. He strikes out. And a ground ball. Votto plays it. And Leake gets out of the inning. Second and third with nobody out. Bases loaded, 1 out. And Leake keeps it at a 3-3 game. The Reds fans from the Texas Roadhouse rode to the Fan Express to Great American Ballpark to root on the Reds, and dates are filling up fast. If you're interested in your group coming over, call 765-7600 to reserve the Fan Express. Now I wonder if that's the one, that Texas Roadhouse there in Milford, right by 275, down by the movie theater down there.
Yep, there is one there. I thought there was another one up off of 275 way north.
Probably is.
Well, whoever, hope they had a good time. That's a nice bus. Good way to go into the ball game.
All right, a 3-3 game. Cozart, De Jesus, Barnhart against Hamels, who's retired 8 in a row since the Cozart run scoring double to left field in the third inning. And remember, that was a misplay out in left field by Ashe. The night appears to be over for Lee.
You know, some nights it's real easy, like it was last week against the Phillies for Mike Leake. Didn't give up a hit, I think, until the 8th inning. Tonight, he danced around 10 hits and a walk and only gave up 2 earned runs. 3 runs altogether. If the Reds score here, he could be the winner.
Line drive, base hit left field for Cozart.
Ashe taking no chances on that.
No.
Cozart was the one that burned him before. Ashe came in on it and the ball went over his head. He's going, this one, I think it's just safe just to stay right here.
De Jesus has bounced to third and hit a bullet right at the second baseman, Chase Utley. Phillies wondering if DeJesus is up there to bunt. Yeah, the third baseman, Franco, 2 or 3 paces on the ground. Hit off the end of the bat, foul, 0-1. That ball is hammered down the left field line, and welcome to Cincinnati, Ivan DeJesus Jr. His first start as a Red, and his first major league home run. How about that?
And that's a no-doubter.
Good for him.
I mean, you talk about unjamming it about 400 feet. Man, that's got to feel good.
I mean, he would be the very picture of a quote-unquote cup of coffee. In his visits to the major leagues, he played in 17 games in 2011 with the Dodgers. He got 33 at-bats in 2012 with the Dodgers. And then a total of 8 at-bats with Boston in 2012. The last 2 years he's been in the minor leagues. Both with Pawtucket and Norfolk. And his first career home run to give his team a 5-3 lead over Cole Hamels and the Phillies. Congratulations, young man.
I mean, 11 seasons in the major leagues, on and off between those cups of coffee and the big leagues. You got to figure at one time or another he's thinking about hanging it up. But it's moments like that that say, you know what, it's all worth it.
You know, we've talked about his dad, and, you know, between 1974 and 1988. His dad was in the big leagues for a long time. One of his teams, the Philadelphia Phillies. Also the Cubs, the Dodgers, Cardinals, Yankees, Giants, and Tigers. It's a mouthful. We talked to his dad. You know, spent a lot of time through the years here in Cincinnati. Met a family a number of years ago out in the eastern part of town. His dad has helped coach a lot of youth baseball teams out beyond the Marymount area, and I don't know if his dad's in town right now with his son having just been called up to the big leagues, as Leake is allowed to bat, and he singles into center field. That doesn't mean that he's not out of the game from a pitching standpoint, but he does swing the bat well, and he delivers.
Yeah, we've seen Brian Price do this with a number of the hitters the pitchers who can swing the bat a little bit. Leake being one. That's a good pitch he hits there. And Michael Lorenzen, a couple of times we've seen that happen.
Justin DeFreitas is getting loose in the bullpen for Philadelphia. Here's Billy Hamilton. A 5-3 Reds lead in the bottom of the 6th inning after the home run from De Jesus. Gone swinging is Billy Hamilton. You know, we're talking about Ivan's father, Ivan De Jesus Sr. And just to give you an idea, his son, who just hit his first major league home run, with barely over 50 major league at-bats. His father had over 4,600 career at-bats and had nearly 1,200 career hits. His father missed being a teammate of Ryne Sandberg by 1 year. In fact, they were traded for one another.
I thought that was it.
I was trying to remember.
Think back.
Yep, that was Sandberg originally. For those of you that may not remember, we all remember him as a great player for the Cubs, Hall of Fame player, as a line out to center field. But Sandberg originally was a Philly, was traded to the Cubs for Larry Bowa. Larry Bowa and Ryne Sandberg went to the Cubs for Ivan De Jesus in 1982, and his son, a 2-run home run. The Miami Marlins, as part of our Super Saturdays, the first 25,000 fans in attendance receive a Brandon Phillips bobblehead presented by Fox Sports Ohio. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or log on to Reds.com/tickets. You can also take a peek in at your local Kroger. Select Kroger locations have tickets. Boy, it is a small world after all. Ivan De Jesus grew up around the game of baseball, his father playing for so many years. Here he's called up to the big leagues just a couple of days before. A man his father was traded for. In fact, two of them sitting down there in that dugout. Sandberg is the manager, and Larry Boa is his bench coach. And his dad at one time traded from the Cubbies to the Phillies for Sandberg and Boa. And that little kid who used to run around the ballpark just hit a 2-run home run. Manny Parra takes over on the mound in relief of Mike Lee, facing Herrera, Utley, Howard, 3 straight left-handed batters.
Parra's only pitched twice now in the month of June. He pitched 2/3 of an inning in one of the Reds' losses in Philadelphia.
Frazier to his left, 1 out. Well, coming up tonight and after every Reds game on Fox Sports Ohio, please stick around for Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll break it all down. Jim Day is hanging out down in the Reds dugout. He was able to celebrate with a lot of his close friends out in the Fox Sports Ohio condominium after the win here yesterday afternoon. A shutout win. 4-hitter from Cueto, Hoover, and Chapman. Of course, Jeff Pecoro will get you up to speed from the locker room and on the field. Strike 1 to Chase Utley. You know, speaking of Jim Day, why don't we check in with him? Any update from, as you like to call it, and I guess you're allowed, it's your hometown. That one popped up into foul territory. From C-Bus, as you like to say, on Devin Mesoraco.
Well, he and Jason Bourgeois were taken out after the 6th inning. I don't have any reports on anything anything injury-wise, but I would assume that they wouldn't want both guys to go a full 9 innings, their first time out. But Devin was 0 for 3, and they must be scared of that big guy's glove and arm in left field because they didn't hit him one ball in the game. So, but he got his feet wet out there, went 6 innings. They don't care they know what he can do with the bat up here. I'm more worried about getting him ready for left field. So both of those guys left after 6 innings.
Okay, Jim Day, thank you. That one hooked to the right side. Brandon throws out Utley. 2 up, 2 down for Manny Parra. Now Parra tries to tie a ribbon around this Philadelphia 7th inning. He faces big Ryan Howard. Fastball off the outside corner. Two and one the count on Ryan Howard. 2 down, nobody on, and Parra going to work. Slow breaking ball, and it's fouled off out of play. Colorado Rockies scored 5 times in the bottom of the 1st inning in the opening game of that series against the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals must have gotten into Denver very, very late last night. Here's a 2-2. Gone swinging Howard and a rock solid 1-2-3 7th for Manny Parra. Reds lead 5-3.
Hall of Famers, including Barry Larkin, Tony Perez, Eric Davis, and many more at the T-Mobile All-Star Fan Fest with the price of admission. Tickets available now at allstargame.com. I'm Jim Day, and sometimes you just got to do it all. Run a little camera here. Joey Votto steps in. Tyler Stevenson, the first-round pick for the Reds, a catcher out of Georgia. And he just recently had a conference call with the media. And one thing that they asked him, were you disappointed not going #1? You guys had said that he was rumored to perhaps be the #1 overall pick. He says he wasn't disappointed because Dansby Swanson, who went first, lives 4 miles away from him. So he's a friend, and he's happy for him. Also, he had committed to play baseball at Georgia Tech, which puts up red flags. But he just told the media he wants to sign immediately with the Reds and get his pro career going as soon as possible.
Well, that's good to hear. Hopefully they can get that straightened out right quick. Phillies go to their bullpen. Justin DeFreitas takes over, right-hander on the mound, facing Joey Votto to begin the Reds 7th. Reds with a 5-3 lead. Freitas got some life on that fastball.
Yeah, he does, and it's not overpowering on the radar gun, but he's got a nice little release at the very end where he kind of pops his wrist, ball comes out of his fingers nice.
Well, that had a lot of movement on it too. That went at 94 miles per hour, and that got down and in on Votto for out #1. A couple of other changes for Philadelphia. Revere moves over to center field, and Jeff Francoeur, one of the heroes in the Philadelphia win over the Giants yesterday, takes over in right field. He had a couple of big moments against the Reds last week. Todd Frazier knocked in the first run of the game with a single to left center field, plating Brandon Phillips. Had an infield hit, scored a run in the third, and grounded out sharply at Utley his last time up in the 5th. right back where it came from. Third hit of the game for Todd Frazier. Man, has his batting average been on the rise. He had the National League Player of the Week award, and then he went to Philadelphia and only had one hit in that 3-game series last week when the Reds dropped 2 out of 3. But now Frazier on this homestand has 7 hits in 17 at bats.
That's taking advantage of a pitcher's mistake right there. You see the reaction by DeFreitas. I mean, had him look silly chasing strike 2, a ball that bounced in front of the plate, and then threw a breaking ball that just hung right down the middle, and Frazier punished it.
Conversely, for Jay Bruce, he's 0 for 3, has struck out 3 times, all against the left-hander Cole Hamels, although all 3 of them were extended pitch at bats. But Hamel was able to finish him off. 1-0 to Bruce, now against a right-hander. Straight up in the air. As she has it for the second out of the inning. Cozart 2 of 3, scored a run, knocked in a run. Same 2 teams tomorrow night. We'll be right back with you here on Fox Sports Ohio as Anthony DeSclafani locks up with Aaron Harang. Same matchup we saw in Philadelphia last Thursday. That was a game the Reds won. Their only win in that series. DeSclafani picking up the win, pitched very, very well. And then John Moscott afternoon tilt Wednesday against Williams of the Phillies. J.J. Hoover is ready if needed. We'll see him in the 8th inning. Here's a pitch, and Frazier takes off and took off a little too early. He's out. On to game summary. The Reds put the first 2 on against Cole Hamels, and one would score. Brandon Phillips comes home on a base hit by Todd Frazier. Billy Hamilton made it a 2-1 game. Stole second, stole third, and came home on a throw down to first base by the catcher Carlos Ruiz. But the Reds had a 3-1 lead until the 4th inning. Ruiz a 2-run single. Stayed that way until the 6th. First start as a Red. First major league home run for Ivan De Jesus Jr. It came with Cozart aboard. 5-3. It gave the Reds a lead. And that's where we stand at the end of 7. J.J. Hoover will take over on the mound. Maikel Franco will lead things off. 3 for 3 tonight. Boy, and the Reds are not looking forward to seeing this guy even for a couple of more games. Very good numbers on Hoover. Has had a remarkable bounce back season after the outstanding rookie year in 13 and a dismal 2014. And boy, he has been really good. Franco in 16 at bats against the Reds. 3 games last week in the first game of this series today. Has a hit in half of those 16 at bats, including 2 home runs, 3 doubles.
Or he's trying to hit one into the upper deck with those 2 swings.
Really good inning tonight from Manny Parra. Retired the side in order in the 7th behind Leake. Caught that one a bit off the end of the bat, but still hit it a pretty decent ways, but into the glove of Hamilton. Well, J.J. Hoover is our steel power tool performer. You talk about it all the time, Chris. You know, you take away that 1 4-run outing against Milwaukee. Look what he has done since the last earned run that he gave up. That's doing it now over 20 games.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned early, Tom, about the struggles that he had last year. I mean, you've got to overcome that mentally. You have to make the whatever mechanical adjustments it is to get your pitches where you want them to and get your life on your fastball back. But you also have to overcome the lack of confidence thing. And he had a very low level of confidence last year in the midst of all that. That's what you admire most about a comeback like this.
Boy, talked about in 2013. Remember, he had the long consecutive scoreless inning streak and then lost a major league high by a reliever. 10 games, and that was 10 in a row. He won his first decision. He's retired the first 2 here in the 8th inning, and now it's Galvis. 0-2. JJ's thrown 8 pitches, 7 for strikes. Still a ball and 2 strikes on Galvis. Galvis going to make him earn it. Shook off Barnhart a couple of times there. Went with a breaking ball and it misses up and away. 2-2 on Galvis. 8th pitch in this at bat. And there'll be a 9th. What a crowd tonight. This first night of our Kid Glove games. 30,900 on a Monday night. Swung on and fouled out of play, and for a team that has had some really ugly losses here lately and comes in 7 games under 500.
Well, you like
almost 31,000 on a Monday night. Look at those guys.
Don't you love when they wear their uniforms? Here they got the uniform tops. The Patriots are here.
Here they are.
Making some noise.
Pretty good looking lineup there. And apparently one of the big kids in the stands brought his A game.
And he brought his glove.
Crowd's going to boo him now that they see he has a Phillies jersey on. If you wore a Reds jersey in Philadelphia and caught a foul ball, you need an armed guard to get out of the ballpark. 3-2 on Galvis.
Maybe in the 500 level of the bet. Not so much anymore.
Right. 3-2 pitch. I say that tongue-in-cheek. Here's a broken bat liner that's caught by Votto, and that'll end the inning. Boy, Reds relief for it. Parra 1-2-3. Hoover 1-2-3. On Fox Sports Ohio with the Reds Live, and it's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Now we take a peek ahead to Reds Live tomorrow, which begins at 6:30, and we invite you to join us. The longtime Red, Aaron Harang, one of our favorite guys, will be on the mound against Anthony DeSclafani. Mentioned earlier, Anthony outpitched Aaron last Thursday night in a Reds win. And right now, and here we are, still 3 outs away. The Reds will have a chance to close it out in the 9th inning and beat Cole Hamels for the first time ever. And that means win a game the first time he's ever started against the Reds. If you include the postseason, Hamels has a 10-0 record. If you include the postseason, it's 14 wins for the Phillies in games he started, 0 wins for the Reds. I mean, they had him around the neck last Wednesday night and gave up 4 in the bottom of the 9th inning to send it to extra innings, and the Phillies would win the game. And they're going to have a little insurance as Cozart plays long ball.
Boy, has he had a good night tonight. Even the fly ball he hit in the first inning was well struck. He's been in a good hitting position. Look at that. Good, strong front side. Quick to the bat, or quick to the ball with his bat path. You're watching him before the ball game. I saw him talking with Don Long behind the batting cage. And you know, you don't know what exactly they're saying, but you can tell by body language what they're trying to demonstrate. And for Zach Cozart, it is all staying in a position where he can make a strong swing to the ball. And he got out of it last year. He started leaning out over the plate with his nose a little bit, losing that power that you have in your core. And he is having himself a very fine season.
That ball stung the other way off the bat of DeJesus. And that rattles off the wall. And Ivan with a home run and now a double in his first start as a Cincinnati Red. So Brian Price pushing the right button on that left field spot here tonight. With a left-hander Hamels on the mound, he goes with a right-handed hitting DeJesus.
Tell you what, he was very impressive in spring training. Of course, there's only so much credence you can put in the month of March. But tonight alone, a home run deep into left field, a double down the right field line. He's using the whole field.
Gobble up the ground ball, and it's still a productive at bat for Tucker Barnhart as he advances DeJesus onto third base.
Sure is.
That's a good job.
You know, Tom, we talked last week about a book that I was reading called Last at Bat. But they're making a movie out of this at bat. It's about a baseball player. Right now, it's about a Cincinnati Reds baseball player they're making a movie about. And they're going to have tryouts for the movie. So if you're a baseball player and you want to try to be in a movie, get on lastatbatthemovie.com. The tryouts are this week. They're Wednesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. over at River Star Park. It's over by I-275 in the river. And
is that the one down by where Champions is?
Yeah, right off of Lindemann Street.
Yeah, right by Coney.
Exactly. And they need a bunch of parts. I mean, I think they have opportunities for 30 different actors. They're going to have movie tryouts in Millbrook, Ohio, in Cleveland, in Albany, New York, maybe some other cities. But this week in Cincinnati, down there at those old River Star fields, there's about 5 fields down there. Champions Baseball Academy's there on Lindemann, right off Kellogg Avenue. Yep. But you should log on first to register. Last at Bat the movie. So if you think you can act or act like a baseball player, it's an excellent book, good movie, and I wish you a lot of luck if you get down there and get an audition.
You ran that trailer, you know, which is giving you an idea about what the book's about, that ultimately what the movie's going to be about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very interesting story.
Yeah. Reds are trying to make it less interesting here with a couple more add-ons. Got a 3-run lead right now, just a ball into the outfield by Bosch. will mean another run.
Brennan pinch hitting for J.J. Hoover, who works a perfect inning. We mentioned the Reds' relief behind Mike Leake has been perfect. 6 up, 6 down. 3 by Pirate, 3 by Hoover. And obviously right now it's still a save situation. So Aroldis Chapman ready in the bullpen. But Bosch trying to make it a non-save situation and stretching the lead to 4. Nothing in 2. Matthews is a right-hander. Sure, the Reds really open this thing up. And Chapman, in case a save is needed in the ninth. Bosch strikes out, and that's a second out of the inning. So now Billy Hamilton, the infield for the Phillies, obviously with 2 away, will back up. De Jesus stands at third. And the Reds' lead stands at 3. Well, Hamilton took a peek around and noticed the only guy that was even thinking about him putting down a bunt was a third baseman Franco, and by showing bunt I mean Howard and Utley moved like they were 24 again. The 1-0 delivery, smoked foul. 6 runs, 11 hits, 5 left on base for the Reds. 3 runs, 10 hits, no errors, 7 left for Philadelphia. Leake allowed all 10 hits in 6 innings, but he only gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. Cole Hamels, 6 innings, 8 hits, all 5 during his 6 innings. And DeFreitas has been touched up by Cozart for a home run here in the 8th. And Hamilton lifts a fly ball to right that will end the inning. But a home run by Cozart. It's a save chance coming up for Aroldis Chapman, as Cozart plays long ball for the 8th time this year. Reds lead 6-3. lot of smiles, at least through 8. But as the Reds found out in Philadelphia last weekend, that doesn't guarantee a win. You need the 25th, 26th, and 27th outs of the game. And with a 3-run lead, they will naturally hand the ball to the flame-throwing Cuban left-hander Aroldis Chapman, who has only blown 1 save all year long, and that was last Wednesday night in Philadelphia. His first blown save in nearly a year.
Well, unusual outing for Chapman, obviously, because he gave up a home run and blew a save, which hardly ever happens, but also because he came into a ball game and it wasn't already a clean inning. Here he's got about as clean an inning and an easy a save opportunity as possible. You've got a 3-run lead, 3 outs to get, and the bottom of the order coming up.
The first fastball at 101. Christopher Negron taking over out in left field for Ivan De Jesus Jr. And right now, De Jesus Jr. is the hero of the game offensively.
No doubt.
A lot of guys contributed tonight. I mean, when you get 11 hits, you know, Phillips had a hit, scored a run. Frazier had 3 hits, scored a run, knocked in a run. Cozart 3 hits, knocked in 2. But De Jesus, in his first start as a Red, broke a 3-3 tie with a 2-run home run in the 6th inning. And that's a man, of course, that he's replacing at least tonight. And that is the former Philly, Marlon Berg. Three and 2 on Carlos Ruiz, and Wallace going to gather himself before this payoff pitch. Pulled foul. Walter's taking a lot of time out there tonight. That's not his MO.
I'm not sure how you do it, but Ruiz has done it twice, which is pull a 101-mile-an-hour fastball. Pull it so much you're pulling it foul.
Three and 2. And another fastball at 101 miles per hour. Man, it's quite an advantage here for Carlos Ruiz. 9 pitches. Draws a leadoff walk here in the 9th inning. Now the Phillies will try and play catch up off Chapman, down 3 here in the 9th. Jeff Francoeur came on as part of a double switch when DeFreitas entered the game. So this will not be a pinch hit at bat for Francoeur, and he's up there first pitch swinging, and this will be the first out of the inning. Now Ben Revere, he doubled the lead off the game and scored when Philadelphia actually did have at one time a lead in this game. I misspoke earlier. They scored in the very first inning on the double by Ryan Howard, which plated Revere. The Reds tied it, then immediately took the lead in the second inning. Revere has since bounced out 3 times to the right side of the Reds infield. Once to Phillips. In there a strike.
Technically, you're not allowed to leave the batter's box unless you swing at a pitch or foul it off. But I think they'll make an exception on that.
Runner going. And it's fouled out a play by Revere.
Votto playing behind the runner right there, and Chapman not paying any attention to him at all. So why not?
It's got to be somewhat foreign, though, to Carlos Ruiz. That's the second time we've seen him taken off between first and second base. They tried to hit and run, you may remember earlier, when Cole Hamels was about.
Well, he could run right now because nobody's holding him on.
Tapping to Votto. He'll take the out in front of him. And the Phillies down to their final out of the game. So a Monday night crowd of 30,900 ready to celebrate back-to-back wins for the Reds. Tomorrow night is the second round of the Kid Glove games here at the ballpark, but tickets are still available. If you'd like to come on down for Anthony DeSclafani and Aaron Harang, 7:10 first pitch. If you're going to join us on the television side, our Reds Live pregame show gets underway at 6:30. Here's Herrera. He'll be taken down for Blanco as a pinch hitter. That one nearly took the arm off of Tucker Barnhart. Advancing on to third is Ruiz.
That's a changeup. You can see it come out of his hand with that little circle change grip, and that's wow.
Andres Blanco is a pinch hitter. 300 batter on the year as a home run. There's a fastball that runs in on his hands, and he fouls it off to the first base side. 1 ball and 1 strike, 2 outs here in the 9th inning. Two balls and a strike on Andres Blanco. And now it's 2-2. 2-2 on Blanco. Ground ball. That is a foul ball. Frazier not going to do the umpiring down there. It was called foul. That's a heads-up play, though, by Frazier.
Oh, you got to complete the play.
Yep. You just never know.
Does it go over the bag? We can't see where the umpire is, and it didn't look like it did. Nope. I still don't know how that bat is attacked. I mean, he's been getting balls in on his hands the entire at bat.
There must be some anti-crack stuff there on the black part of that bat instead of pine tar. Some kind of sealant. Oh my gosh, that one thrown to the backstop, and the runner is safe at the plate. And Chapman may have been spiked on the play.
On his hand. Is that why he's taking his glove off and looking at his hand a little bit?
He's squatting down right now. Did his knee get twisted?
Did he turn his ankle a little bit?
May have, or a knee. I don't know. But he's squatting down, and now he's getting back up on the mound.
Didn't look like his hand got spiked.
And now he has walked his second batter this inning, and the tying run is going to come to the plate in the form of Chase Utley. 2 wild pitches, advancing Ruiz, who led off the inning with a walk. The 2 wild pitches sent him from second to third and third to the plate. Utley is 0 for 4. Has struck out, grounded to short, fly to center, and bounced to second base. And a first pitch fastball right down the middle, strike 1 on Chase Utley. For 3 in his career as Utley with a strikeout against Orioles. And the 0-1 pitch. Slider. Unhittable. For a left-handed batter, that pitch is unhittable.
Especially in that spot. If it works then, why not do it again?
0-2 on Utley. Came with a gas, taking second base is Blanco. Two to count on Chase Utley. Gone swinging, and the Reds are winners. So a bumpy night for Orioles. He gets a strikeout, allows a run, walks a couple of batters. But when all is said and done, it is a 6-4 Reds victory here tonight. They beat Cole Hamels for the first time ever. In this, the 15th game he has pitched against him. 6-4 our final. We're back with more from Great American Ballpark in just a moment.